Hey, it's me.
She's a former mayor. They're a former evangelical pastor with dissociative identity disorder. These two like to talk about the topics you're not supposed to talk about. They might cause you to perspire just a bit, but they'll definitely make you inspired. Let's talk religion and politics, and what spirituality and emotional well-being look like in a post-evangelical world. This is Paul and Ashley on Evangelicalish.
Yeah, baby, here we are.
What's up? It's Wednesday.
I like being a former evangelical pastor.
A former evangelical. Okay, so can I tell you the really kind of shitty thing I was thinking during the open?
What?
Okay, so I was thinking about how I kind of like that headshot for me, and I'm like, oh, she looks good like that. I'm thinking that, and then I think to myself, but she didn't always look good. And then I said the words that every shady Southern woman would say about another woman when I was growing up. I said, she does a lot with what she's been given. She works well with the tools she's been given, which is a very underhanded way to say, like, you're not really that cute, but you work hard at it. So that's
Is
what I was just thinking as we were watching the
is
open.
that that's kind of a bless her heart kind of thing?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a stab in the back. Like while you're like pat him on the back and stab him at the same time. But anyway, yes,
Nice.
it's Wednesday.
Did you,
And here we
and
are.
speaking of the, pictures, did you see the Trump painting that was hanging in the
Yeah.
building in Colorado?
Oh, wait,
And
what? Is it the one he didn't like because it made him look fat?
yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
oh, I think it's like the funniest thing ever. And
I, I
I mean, look at that.
see. Okay, I have to tell you, I don't think he looks that bad. I think this actually. Oh, in fact, this was a joke on the Daily Show 2 nights ago, I believe, and they're like, it was something like, he says like, this isn't a very flattering picture, and then John Daly's like, because this is, and he shows this terrible picture of Trump, and he's like, at least it doesn't show your like foundation not being blended into your scalp.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
So I don't think it's that bad of a picture of him.
it's just funny how he's such a little
So
vain
weird.
child, just
So
just
weird.
a child. But I got to admit, when I look at that picture, it does make me chuckle. And
Because he looks heavy. Well, I think it takes his wrinkles away and his jowls away. So there's something about at least his face is, yes, plump, but at least it's tighter. Can we say that?
there did seem a moment on and it doesn't. Yeah, Laura in the chat, for those who are watching the video, says it doesn't show the orange makeup either. So which I've never figured out what the bleep that's all about. But
It's just spray tan. These are things you don't have to worry about because you have such beautiful complexion. But
why does he get
we whitey
orange?
spray tan. I don't know. Somebody's mixing it up wrong.
I mean, he's massively wealthy. He should be able to pay somebody to do
Well, he
a
also
good
should
color
be
on him.
able to have a haircut that is not like a comb over from the back forward and then parted. These are things that I maybe in the afterlife will have clarity on these things.
Yeah. And he ought to be able to hire some decent people to work for him too, you would think.
It's not like there aren't thousands running around like trying to coif him the right way, and he chooses this. He chooses this. He chooses that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And you've said before, like you younger, you felt like he was an attractive man.
I think I can't even say these words. I almost did, and then I just like vomited in my mouth. It was like,
Yeah.
But okay, I'll just leave it at that. Look at his young professional.
Yeah.
He
Let me.
wasn't-
I
No,
rescind that.
God,
Let's
Jesus,
act like
stop
the
it.
last 3 minutes never happened.
We're coming out of the gate really strong tonight.
Okay. Yeah. And I checked. I don't have I can't remember what the group chat is. I have WhatsApp, so I just went on there to check. before the show to see if there were any like national secrets being fed to me, but
Any wars being waged tonight
yeah,
in group chat?
unfortunately not. I didn't get any. I'm not in that in crowd, but
You're not OPSEC clear?
I'm not OPSEC. Well, you don't have to be clear. You just have to be included in the group chat.
No, but that's one of the things Pete Hegseth said is we're clear for OPSEC.
Yeah.
So he's like, it's all good. Yeah. I was wondering, do you think this, like, I'm sure we'll be hearing about this soon, but do you think that Signal's stock, I don't know if they're publicly traded, but is their value going to go up or down? They're getting so much attention, PR. And at first you kind of go like, oh my gosh, if you're the leadership team of that company, are you not like crapping the bed every minute of the day, dealing with the fallout of every single news person is talking about like, it's not encrypted. It's not, you're getting so many mentions. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? If you're,
I think it's under the all publicity is good publicity category.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. But then the 23andMe lady just went bankrupt, totally unrelated to this. But it's like, I thought that was a pretty cool, strong company. And I enjoyed finding out that I had fourth cousins I'd never heard of. So like,
well, they got hacked, and that's what took them out. They got hacked.
23andMe did?
Yeah. And then nobody wanted to do business with them anymore. So that took them down. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Elon will buy Signal now. I don't know.
Whatever. Well, that was, I can't wait to see what happens as a result of, it's like, well, it's kind of like Dominion, and like, then they have these huge lawsuits. Maybe Signal will have lawsuits because everyone is like trash talking how it's not really safe.
But Signal didn't do anything wrong. They didn't tell Tulsi and Pete to commit crimes on there. I remember Lock Her Up. It was because Hillary Clinton was using a private phone to do state business, and that was all
the private server.
Yeah, on her BlackBerry, right?
Also, they had a server, that they just, honestly, to shield from Public Records Act requirements, so that
was exactly why they're doing this as well.
Yeah.
And so I ran some video of Pete Buttigieg today saying, this is an epic fuck up. That was Pete's exact words. And so, yeah.
And EFU.
Yeah. At least finally somebody is saying these guys are fuck ups. So good.
This is a sincere question.
Okay.
The whole thing about people are going to have your DNA, like, what could they do with it? I'm kind of like, so what? I don't know. My identity's already been stolen. Like, everyone's already got my cell phone number and my social security number. So why do I care if they have my DNA? I'm sincerely, like, I kind of want to know, what should I be worried about there? Because I did do 23andMe.
Clone you?
Well, this is like thinking. I'm very proud of my DNA. I'm very happy for the whole world to know exactly what my composition is and who my fourth cousin is. I don't have a problem with it.
By the way, on the Signal thing, if you've heard the Atlantic reporter, he's like, I take national secrets very seriously. I've been doing this for a long time. And the fuck ups in the administration are just like, this isn't a big deal at all. And he's a scumbag. And so I love that the Atlantic came back today and just dropped it all, still being sensitive to not, letting CIA agents have their names put out there and stuff like Trump has done in the past. Yeah. But just to go, okay, you're telling us there's no national secrets here, motherfuckers,
Motherfucker. So listen, have you read the tweets yet? Because I haven't had time.
I have not.
Today.
I have not.
I've been on this huge deadline, so I haven't had time. Okay. Well, I was sitting next to a lady at work today, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it's juicy." So I do need to go take a look at that.
And I did hear that like JD Vance was MFing Trump on it or something.
I heard that reported too, that he was like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. And then Stephen Miller was like, the president ordered it. And then, so the commentary was like, oh, we know who wears the pants in the family. It's Stephen Miller. He totally is the power center, not JD Vance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and there were some that were trying to say, well, this is the intentionally leaked to make JD look like a big man or something.
Oh, to make it look like a big man, but he got pantsed, so it made him look
Well,
like a little man.
but he was also MFing Trump or something, like
But
Trump
he
doesn't
got over. I'm
understand.
telling you, it reveals that he doesn't have a powerful voice in the
Okay.
administration. He's not making the decision. So it may have been leaked to put that on display, that it's really, that he's not really steering anything.
Okay.
So he could have some enemies in the administration, but there's just no way it was anything other than an epic fuck up.
All right.
I don't,
And
anyway.
these are an epic fuck up by people who are epic fuck ups. And that's who's running our government right now. Nice to know. I am excited about our guest today, though, who is not an epic fuck up.
Ew. So glad to have this conversation tonight.
I went on a trip over the summer, over August, through the southern United States, and this was one of my RV mates who was kind of in charge of the whole thing. And so let's bring Brent Roberts in. Hi, Brent.
Hello.
Hello. Brent is a
Hello.
farm-raised renegade pastor, real estate broker, actor, writer, director, and producer, and adventurous storyteller who feels authenticity wrapped in humor is the key to a good life. And he co-hosts with Rocky Roggio, our good friend Rocky, the 1946, the movie Culture Shift Tour podcast. And here he is.
Hey, welcome, Brent.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'd just like to clear a few things up from the beginning of the show here.
Okay. All right.
When I first saw a picture of Ashley, and I was like, we took a look, and we were in the RV like, Paul, your wife's a freaking hottie. Like, she is a hottie. So I call bullshit on you talking Southern shame on your own picture.
No,
and
but
what you were dealt with is gorgeous.
Hey, we could just like stay here all night and have this conversation. But I grew up a white, pudgy, freckly faced, brown haired, sweaty head kid with a gap and buck teeth. I didn't, that's what I mean when I'm like, yeah, she's worked hard, she's worked with what she's got. That's what my mom would say.
We can all compare some pictures here. I think one of my nicknames in junior high was Ostrich Boy, just because I was so lanky and like one of many nicknames of going through those awkward phases. I had a permed mullet at one point, spike on top and a permed mullet.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's hot.
So,
nothing wrong with that.
There really isn't. It's made a comeback lately. And even for the road trip, I had a little bit of a mole going on. So
that's cute. Paul, that was Paul's claim to fame, is that he, at a time when the other fellas were going in to get their hair permed, he didn't need to, because he was like, oh, I got the natural curl.
Beautiful curls and great skin. And I got to see it driving down the freeway at the speed limit in the sun in that RV. Just this gorgeous creation next to me.
Well, as to your comment about Ashley, I always say it to guys, it never hurts to be with someone when you walk into the restaurant. They're like, what is she doing with that guy? It's always good.
They're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so we did this tour, and we'll talk about some of the fun things we did along the way. But our goal was to open people's eyes to the danger of Christian nationalism and Trump. And fuck, here we are.
Here we are.
What the hell happened, Brent?
That is such a great question. With all of this, that would probably take a decade or two to answer. As we're going to look back in the history books to really be able to look back and actually factually answer what the hell happened in, like we took off when we signed up for this to jump in this RV and travel the states. Like, who does that? Number one, at our age, and like how much we love comfort. If there's something I love, it is being comfortable. I love my bed. I love my blankets. I love my onesie. And to give that up for like a month to go do this, we had a mission and a calling deep in our hearts to go do something. And when we started this, Joe Biden and Donald Trump had just had their debate, and there was a sinking feeling in all of us of like, oh, that wasn't great. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. And then before we left, he stepped aside, stepped down, and Kamala stepped up. And so there was that different fervor and fire of like, let's go for the miles. And so, I mean, we went out with a lot of optimism and hope, knowing we were going to have a giant fight, which it was. And then just what the actual hell with where we are today. And thus we are currently sitting and getting, you elect that, you get that. And we are feeling the get that days, multiple things a day. That is just, I don't know about y'all and anybody else watching, but I feel like so incredibly overwhelmed constantly. I've got many good things going in my life, but there's like a huge, heavy weight on my shoulders, my heart, my mind of like, but why aren't you happy? That it's like, because watch the news and look around. And so it's just like total madness. You're just daily flabbergasted with each new thing coming across the news headline that you're like, no way. Yes way. How many no ways have we had in the last decade of surely that's going to be the rock bottom? Surely
that is
that'll
it,
be
exactly.
Nope.
About 5 times a day, I'm like, is this the one? Is this the line that Christians won't be able to cross with this guy? And there is no line.
Right. There doesn't seem to be. It's heartwarming to see many people turning up and turning out at these, very few and sparse Republican talkbacks and town halls where people were coming in. I don't think those are Democrats or liberals being paid to be there and make
it doesn't
upheaval.
look like it.
No,
yeah,
those are some pissed off people who expected one thing and got something different. They got bamboozled, and many of us were like, "Hey, you're about to get bamboozled. You're getting lied. You're getting conned. And here's Project 2025 and the history." And it's feeling more and more of that, of this awakening to hopefully bring a reckoning is feeling better than nothing. But and it's that hard. Go ahead.
Let me ask you about this, because one of the things that I think is particularly hard about this kind of transition that we're in, and I'm hoping that it is like all the bad stuff coming up so that we can reveal the things that really need to be fixed, and ultimately like we sort of fall forward in the right direction. So I kind of hold on to that optimism. But for one thing, it is, and we look at major transitions in history and we read about them in a book like 100-year period of time as if it's like 2 or 3 paragraphs. So we're 10 years in and it's still a very short period of time, but these things break, and like it's like many little things that determine the overall direction of public sentiment in a society, etc.
Can I just interrupt real quick and say, doesn't it seem like 100 years ago when Trump came down the escalator? It seems like 100 years ago.
Yes.
Well,
go ahead, sorry.
I remember when he came to Fresno in 2016 and campaigned. He came to this. Do you remember he was at the Selland Arena? And like, anyway, so it's like all this sort of, I don't know, this contagion of things are constantly going on around us. We're aware of the shift, but then also we live in California and we're like, and if I don't look at my phone or something, I can kind of just live my life. And I know that's a statement of privilege, that there are a lot of people who can't just live their lives, even living in California. So that's true. But there is something about our state legislature is still focused on this, or our sort of, public narrative is still something that is different from what we're saying with the national stuff. As you guys were traveling across the country, and you're both in California, full-time residents here, how did it feel to be in different states and in different communities outside of California having these conversations? And of course, this was pre-election, but everything was bubbling up. And like, what kind of difference does that make to be like not under the California umbrella?
Paul, what did you, because you were delivering, the very specific and focused segment of a speech, a sermon, if you will, on the dangers of Christian nationalism and some of the roots of all of that. And so I'm sure many more people came up to you specifically with those kind of political questions and talks and thoughts, rather than when we screened, the 1946 movie about kind of the word homosexuality landing in the Bible as a mistranslation of Greek and Hebrew and the damage it's done. The Bible being used as a sacred weapon would feel some of that. But I would think you, probably more than any of us in the RV, encountered a tone of that. What were some of the craziest or wild things you heard in various parts?
Yeah, at the events, we still had a pretty friendly audience, because most of the people coming are in our circles and knew of the movie, other than, like the husband that the wife brought, and then he kind of got convinced by the movie and then bought our Airbnb for us in Colorado Springs, which was a beautiful story. But the people I encountered that were a little bit negative, it was around abortion, because I was telling the story about how abortion was a politicized issue used to cover the racism of the moral majority movement. And then so people who are very, very, very pro-life came up and like, no, you're wrong, and that kind of thing. But the thing that was amazing is to run into the people we encountered on the street and in the restaurants, and these tire sales men who were, just wearing, long beards and dirty baseball caps and dirty jeans, and me going, this is, what did I just walk into? And finding the sweetest, kindest, most helpful human beings you can ever imagine. And, came right in at when we had a flat tire. I came right in at closing time, and I'm like, guys, I'm so sorry. And they're like, no, our mama told you never leave anybody in distress. It's okay. We're going to take care of it. And just sitting there going, and all of you are going to vote in a way that will put my life in harm's way. It's a really kind of a mind effort, to just think that there's such a disconnect between the politics of people and who they really are as human beings.
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest terms out there is like, there's got to be some kind of cognitive dissonance, or the cognitive dissonance required to ... on so many issues of families doing this, friends doing this. And it's work to reconcile people continuing to support this when we know their hearts, we know their hospitality, their care and their words and their service. And then it's like, but do y'all understand that this particular legislation will mean the trans community gets completely sold out? And then it's just the next of gays, lesbians, bisexual, you name it. And that's why, the diversity, even in our RV, was really beautiful. And that when we showed up, it's like, I'm trans, I'm lesbian, I'm bi, I'm queer, I'm all of it. Because if you come for them, you're coming for me. And that to get people through, to bridge that together, that you feel love for me, you care for me, I know you love me, and yet you support and vote for this. It seems like such a betrayal of what we know of people, of their character, of their hearts, that they are voting and they are supporting in opposition to who we know them to be. And it's why it's such a mind, it just baffles the mind. Yeah. But exactly what you said, Paul, that like we would go to these places and it's like, okay, guys, be careful. But not once did we ever feel necessarily threatened or even... I mean, we've been in some uncomfortable situations, right? Because of everything about who we are. I don't think I even felt that level of discomfort on this trip for 30 days. In some places, I really anticipated it to. So what you hear and what you believe about the way some of these states view LGBTQ people, now granted, it doesn't represent the entire state or communities and everything. It's definitely out there, and it's why we went there. But what we got to encounter spoke a difference to us and to that whole notion or statistic. So that was really beautiful.
Well, we drove through what we felt like it was a pretty scary place in Mississippi, and we came up on a place, a restaurant, because we were all starving, called the Rusty Pelican.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay, we're going to try this, because there are not a lot of places open on a Sunday in Mississippi. And we go in, and gosh, we had an amazing experience. They were so excited to have us there, and so kind. And our wonderful waitress, like, my son owns the place. I'm going to go get him out of the kitchen. And he comes out and he gets us some free beignets, and the food was amazing. And so, yes. But didn't he tell us, like, well, you're in Southern Mississippi. If you were up in Philadelphia, Mississippi, it might be a little bit different thing.
Yep.
Southern Mississippi. Because it's closer to like Florida, Panhandle,
the Gulf of Mexico, by the way.
Yeah,
it's on the Gulf Coast there. And he even had his wife was there as well, and she was Vietnamese. Am I
Vietnamese?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vietnamase. So yeah, he said the coast is a very different part of Mississippi then.
Yeah. So obviously an outlier even in their marriage and relationship, but starting a business like that and everyone getting to taste her culture and her cooking, like making a difference down there. And it's those little things that each little thing makes a difference. So of course, to take a trip like we did, to spend all that time, all that effort to raise voter registration and try to get people to just be louder, be prouder, be bold, because we all saw what happened last time when it looks like, there's no way. And to have the sinking, on November 4th was just, you just shut the TV off. And I don't know, it wasn't the same as the news in 2016. There was something different in the shift of just like, you feel so defeated inside. And I speak from a very privileged position in my life with everything, with what I've been born with has afforded me, to people who have gone through so many hurdles, so many obstacles continually to say like, yep, sucks. You'll get through it. You'll deal with it. And it's like, man, I have such admiration for people different than me that have been through such harder things just because of who they are, from their skin color and ethnicity and genetic makeup and you name it, that but still to feel that depleted, defeated, and like, damn it, what was all that for then? But it was for that couple in that restaurant, and it was for many of the Uber rides we had when people would randomly ask, what you in town for? Oh boy, how do we answer this one? But when we answer with honesty to speak up and show out. And again, like you mentioned, that guy in the crowd who came in with his arms crossed. And by the end of our night together, after we asked, like, we don't have a place to stay in this next spot, to give us near $1,000 or more for a stay, to be like, babe, we're writing them a check. Like, that's the difference. That's the little ripple effect and nugget, and who knows who he will affect. And so many people who we didn't get to hear from. And it sounds so cheesy. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like the whole, minister thing of like the pebble and the ripple, but it's like unfortunately true. We don't know the ultimate impact. And now as well, what the 1946 podcast is doing in elevating some of these stories, and the many interviews that we had were just so heartbreaking and heartwarming, from people who've been through some serious bullshit and pain and harm from the church and their religion and pastors and the truth of the word, into such new freedom, and still showing up in service and still showing up in love to give and care and be part of faith bodies and communities. So inspiring. It made a difference for me, Paul. I'm sure it made a difference for you in your life journey, and just further acceptance and emboldenedness, and that healthy pride that I get to say to myself and, to the sky, thank you for making me who I am. I love who I am. And I hope I can be better at being more courageous, at not hiding who I am in whatever that might look like in the next corner I turn. Yeah.
I mean, even for me, just to be in an RV with the six of us in loving each other just as we are, type of way, was was wonderful, and then encountering the people we did along the way who were just fabulous. And I believe I can tell this story, but you correct me if I can't. We did have a trans male with us. Is that okay to tell?
Yeah.
And we took care of Carter at every gas station stop to make sure the bathroom was a safe place. Like, because as disappointing as election night was, in some ways, it's been worse than I imagined it was going to be. They've moved faster, and it's unleashed some really ugly stuff. And I don't know that some people are aware of how scary a bathroom stop on the highway is for a trans person. And you got to use the bathroom at some point. And it's really, it can be a life or death situation. And so for our friend on the trip, you just wanted to go with them to the bathroom and make sure there was a stall available, and that they were taken care of at the bathroom. And that was really important, and was a life lesson for me. So I appreciated that, and have a new understanding of humanity through that process, both good and bad.
Well, it's so funny. You're the one saying this when ultimately when we stepped into the RV, you were it for me of like, oh God, could he please just wear his flats? Nope, Paul's wearing the pump heels. Okay, here we go. I'm like, I get your dukes ready, Brent. You're gonna get ready to. You better not say shit because I'm standing up for my friend or whatever it was. But yeah, those things. What's so problematic about it is bullying has been emboldened and proclaimed. That's who we are. Call it out for in the name of what's right and black and white. And all it has done is amplify the hatred and down to like people who just happen to look a little more feminine or masculine, like genital check or like, excuse me, this is a lady's right. Yes, I'm a lady, or vice versa, or the memes you've seen going around for the trans community. Do you really want me in the ladies' room? And do you really want me in the men's room?
Yeah.
You get real. And at the end of the day, it's like, my God, it's going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Who gives a literal shit? Like,
I'm here to take a piss. It's not a big, I am not here to ogle you. I really am.
No,
not.
I am here to give a shit, and then I'm gone. Like,
I literally want to give a shit. That's it.
Because I just need to give a shit.
It's ridiculous.
So I can leave.
Yeah,
I gotta go. So I, leave so I can go. I don't know.
And just all the false flags and notions. And again, anytime their damn fingers are pointing, you need to look back at those browser histories. And whoever's pointing, look at their arrest record. Look at what's going on from people in their circles who've been in private rooms and meetings with them. Because every time the finger points, like the children, the bathrooms, the locker rooms. Really? Do you want to talk about some stats and recent arrest records and see what it looks like, who it is, what positions have been arrested for child pornography, for child abuse, for child trafficking? Because as sure as shit isn't the drag queens you keep hyping on about or trans people. Those two categories specifically are the farthest from who's really causing this harm to children. It's It's youth pastors, it's clergy, it's leadership, it's coaches, it's teachers, it's police officers, it's military members, it's men in leadership positions of trust and authority over youth that are usually the guilty and statistical culprits. There's a really cool account called at Antifa Operative, and it's a gal named Bex, and all she does is posts arrest records and mugshots, and every time Republican senator or this, that, the other. And I don't give a shit if it's Democrat or Republican, gay, straight, whatever it is. That's horrific. And we call it out. You know what I mean? Across the board. But the stats are the stats. And the facts are the facts, y'all. That those fingers pointing are the ones doing the damage. Those are the criminals and predators who is it safe for children to be in church? Should we be protecting children from church? Because if you poll an audience, how many of you who grew up in the church, how many were in an unsafe situation with your pastor, or you felt sexual advance, or were you even potentially molested? And just I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever, nor would any of us, of the hands in the air of people who have experienced that kind of harm and trauma at the hands of people we trusted and who you knew to be good, God-fearing Christian people. Wow, that was a tangent. I apologize.
Well, no, it's a trend. Like I started doing it, just every time I see a pastor getting arrested, this big muckety muck in Texas, got arrested for a 12-year-old, and you put, not a trans woman in a bathroom, not a trans athlete in a locker room, not a drag queen at a story time. And for this week, it just, they just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming.
Literally. I
forgot. Literally. I think part of it is this kind of regressive, repressive religion telling, men don't, stuff everything down. It's better to look good than to feel good. Don't get help. And that stuff's going to explode somewhere. And it makes I think it makes little boys in adult bodies become very dangerous beings. And it's what we're seeing break out,
There was also something I found when I shared it somewhere. You can Google Republican sexual predators, abusers, and enablers on the daily costs. Again, some random individual was just so pissed at the Brett Kavanaugh hearing and with Trump stuff. She started capturing this from October 23rd of 2018. And as of March 24th, 2025, it is at part 55 that she has started with 1,375 arrests or cases, and each one has a citing and a source with the story from local news, from arrest records. That and I just feel like, what we're all kind of begging for more liberal leadership and democratic leadership is enough with the niceties. If there are no rules, there are no rules. Get emboldened, like Pete Buttigieg, just to say fuck up. Use the potty words. Slam your fist on a table, because so many of us, not just in America, across the globe, are banging their heads on the wall of absurdity after absurdity, and how this is damaging so much of our existence in a daily basis. It's time to get pissed. It's time to rally. And
I think, and I'm sorry, Ash, that we haven't let you jump in a bit here, but it's, if Lauren Boebert wants to get felt up in a children's theater, knock yourself out. Well, not in a children's theater, but in a theater, knock yourself out.
Beetlejuice. Yeah.
But don't then go out and start saying gay people are, evil demons.
Yeah.
Don't be a hypocrite about it. Like, and what's the other MTG, Don't be out there being all pious and religious and then getting a divorce because you're having sex with your sex guru. It's the hypocrisy that's so ridiculous. And again, even the hypocrisy is okay. You can do that as a human being, but then to try to put it into civic law,
right,
and force the Bible into school and all this other stupid shit, that's when you just really want to punch somebody in the face. That's when it just makes me really angry.
And it's the same on every issue across the board in abortion and the secret privatized mistresses who they pay to have abortions, or their own daughters in a secret private manner. I think that's the part that enrages me the most, is the double standards and the hypocrisy and the complete glossing over it. It's just, yeah.
All right, Ash, I want to play a video, but do you want to jump in on any of that? We've been talking quite a bit.
So Brent, when you said when the finger points, I was waiting for the third grade version of what you're about to say. That means there's 3 fingers pointing back at you, and you're like, when the finger points, let me see your browse history. And I was like, whoa, we went somewhere I'd never been before. That's a powerful one. Let me see what those other fingers are doing with your keyboard when you're pointing the one at me. So
delete history.
Delete hit. That's a really Fair point. Let's just say it. People are struggling with porn addictions. They're struggling with it. They're like, it's like, yeah. Anyway, I when I was listening to you, I was thinking we need to create a new word. It's like tangent and rant comes together in like a rangent. Or
I went on a rangent.
You went on a rangent, and I was like, all just like
A
in it
raging
with
tangent.
you, and a raging tangent, rangent. Anyway,
I
yeah,
love
I was
it.
totally in it with you. I do have one question, but it's like kind of tame and a little academic. But I'm curious because one of the things about 1946 that I love so much is just, well, for one thing, it's just a fantastic story. It's so heartwarming, and I mean, it's just like the coolest thing, how all these pieces came together and what you guys did with putting the film together and all that. But it's so academic, and it's so grounded in, here are the exact notes from these 12 or 15 biblical scholars at the time who are convened around this question. They didn't have clarity. There was room for debate. Like, it was so reasoned and sound. And I'm curious if in your I guess in your experience with the show, not just traveling across the country, but as this film has been aired, have you come across anybody who's like, gosh, I'm a biblical scholar, this information's really well founded, I hadn't thought of it that way? Like, is there a reasoned response to this too, that you've seen, like somebody open their eyes because of that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what information is presented and how it's presented, it's not presented in like a damn you're dumb type fashion. It's an honest perspective and question on the table. It's not trying to say, see, you're so wrong and you're hateful. And I mean, the director Rocky uses her relationship with her father as the main thread of the film, when dad is so polar opposite from his lesbian daughter and the stand that she takes. And yet they still love each other. And to find heart amidst the head and unpacking of it all, it's so much to do with how we come to our faith in general. I need proof. I need foundational documentation and understanding and science to weave in. And then I'm also got to have my heart moved. But typically it's when my heart gets moved that I make my choice or decision, along with the stuff in here. So to not bypass and to not miss how impactful the relationships are, and the pain and the hurt. I think that's such a beauty of what the film does. We interviewed Dan McClellan, who's a big, TikTok name, and so many people go after him. He gets called heretic on the daily, so he's clearly doing something right. Such a just smart individual, and so many people, so many other people like that who have seen the film with no agenda, much like Kathy Baldock, the researcher whose work was so much the foundation of this film in her book, Walking the Bridgeless Canyon. Straight woman who just happened to take a lot of hikes with a lesbian for a year. And then finally, when she came out, she'd be like, wait, what? No, there's no way. God loves you. You're a woman of faith. And like got so fired up from empathy to go on that journey. Colby Martin from Unclobber, a straight, pastor. My good buddy Joe and his wife Tori, straight pastor, coming out of 20 years of evangelical ministry to start Shift Church in Gainesville and have a podcast, Shift Happens. And Joe has been to trans rallies around there and apologized in tears for his part in the harm, in the hurt, and saying, I will do anything I can to help. Let me learn. Help me learn with you. And I know it's not your job to teach me, but I want to do my best to learn and be the strongest ally and advocate that I can for you. So there are so many stories like that. And I think, it's on Amazon streaming that you can, I think, still pay $14 for it or watch it direct from the website. There's so many people probably watching this film in private who need to, and though they may never speak it, something shifted within them after watching this film, that hint of difference from things as we grew up in our very evangelical faiths and such surety as 18 to 24-year-olds of having it right, and they're like, no, the Bible clearly says, and that's wrong, and this is right, and I'm sorry, but you're missing the Spirit of God. Me speaking this to a 60-year-old or something, right? There's so many people who are longer in years in their faith journey, who've got a heart and head to listen and to think, if I may have been wrong about some of these other things, what if I've missed something here? And would I be on the side of love and empathy to say yes, or on the wrong side to continue to say, no, I'm sorry, but I still believe you're going to hell, or you're lying. It's just something you're going through and it's a sin and you can change it. It's, I know there's got to be thousands upon thousands of people who have seen this in private and feel that way. And they're having very small conversations until they get to the place and point where they almost come out as like, okay, I was wrong. And those 3 words are probably much harder to say than I am gay, or I am trans, or I am bi, I am whatever, to say I was wrong.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
I love that. I love that. We should start an I was wrong campaign. Just
Yes, totally.
develop that muscle memory, develop
Yes.
the constituency and the value for being able to say, I was wrong.
Which is
God,
okay.
That's really, yes, exactly.
It's okay to be
No,
wrong
totally.
and to make a mistake. And even with people who voted for Trump 3 times and are currently still in support, there's still time to change your mind and your heart. And no, might take me a while to work through my forgiveness and like making space again for you, but it'll happen. I can forgive. If I see.
Sorry, Brent. I was wrong, and I don't know. Those are
3
things
more words. We should
need
make a list of all the 3-word sentences that we want to reintroduce into our society.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And
I don't know. I was wrong. Tell me more. That's a good one that I've seen a lot of people promote that. Like,
I'll do better.
Tell me more. I'll do better. Boom. You guys, it's like a whole thing. This should be our next road. I want to go on the next one.
The I was wrong road trip.
I was wrong trip. Use 3 words. Pick 3 words. It'll change your life.
And I would even say for me, in fact, the first time I had Rocky on a podcast with me, I even told her then, like, I know how evangelicals treat gay people is wrong. I know this, but I'm still not sure I'm buying your premise that the Bible is mistranslated. Because I hadn't seen the film yet, and we talked about it, and she had a really honest conversation. And then when I saw the film, I'm like, oh, now this makes sense. And so it really was for me. But I was going to say too, when you interviewed Dan McClellan for the podcast and all, and he's LDS, but why he started doing what he's doing to be a Bible scholar, breaking down the Bible for people and saying this is what we have wrong, was because his daughter said something one day that made him realize she was saying, I get it. I don't have the same opportunities as my brother because I'm female. And he was like, oh, wow, this isn't okay. This isn't good. And that was really moving. That really moved my heart to hear that. Well, let's, you guys have a podcast that you and Rocky and Carter and all the other gang put together. Let me run a clip here real quick, and you tell us kind of where this all came from and where it is running and going and all those good things. So this is 1946, the Culture Shift Tour podcast.
No real skirting around. What we're really addressing and talking about here on this podcast is, for me, I decided to get up out of my very nice air-conditioned home and hop into an RV in the dead of summer.
In August.
It was hot. And travel around this country with 6 strangers that became very familiar, because I feel the same as a lot of you listening to this. There are parts of me that are afraid. There are parts of me that are scared to live as an out gay man. In 2023, there was over 510 anti-LGBTQ bills that were on the floor to be proposed and considered to pass that could harm our communities in such awful ways, from education to health rights and clearly bodily autonomy, women's rights. That all these notions and thoughts is my why that I jumped in. And for me, it's to take a stand against some of the raging hypocrisy that you see.
So that's a good looking podcast.
Yeah.
And sounding.
And we have some good looking guests. Come on.
And a really creepy, like mannequin.
Totally. The mannequin in the corner could have been an edit out. Like, but yeah, the episodes continue to come out, and it's a fun weave, especially when we draw in so many of the interviews from the road and the host families that we stayed with. Just a good range of people from all walks of life that you're not just hearing it from the LGBTQ community with this message that we're taking. You get to hear it from each story. Kind of matters that many people are not going to relate to me or you two, but they will relate to a Southern woman in Texas sitting there and talking like, just through the pandemic, I'm like, wait a minute. And that one little pin got pulled out and then everything crumbles. Like so many will relate to her that we found along the way. So
Frisco, Texas. Yeah. And then there was a mother of a trans daughter there. I think about her often, and I wonder how they're doing right now behind the Texas curtain.
I think they're preparing to potentially leave just because it's just not safe with Governor Abbott. And even then, before all this happened, they were needing to travel to San Diego for medical care and various things, like many, many people in those southern states. So,
yeah. So what is the goal of the podcast? Do you have kind of a thought on that, and where would you like it to take the ideas of 1946 and all of those in the next phase of where we're all going?
Yeah. Well, as I'm working on, my own documentary in a much different direction, 1946 is one documentary. Like For the Bible Tells Me So with Daniel Carlslake, or For They Know Not What They Do, Daniel Carlslake. Just three great examples of incredible documentaries surrounding LGBTQ faith and the things an LGBTQ believer may go through. My hope is that more and more people will listen to the podcast and get a spark inside to be like, well, what? And they just churn and stir, and they're like, I need to do something. Well, what does that mean? If that means a small group of 3 people in your tiny little town to start talking about these things and sharing experiences, for another storyteller to be like, I don't know how to make a documentary, but they go along the journey for 3 to 5 years, and the next documentary comes out, because every single story can affect someone different. To continue to raise the conversation, to put it on the table and talk from different perspectives we may not have heard, from gay cowboys to leadership lesbians, you name it, you know what I mean, across the board of like whatever variants of where we show up in life and how we affect people, how we're affected, the beauty of us and how we're just like everyone else, and also how we're very different and how that's all really beautiful. My hope is that, and especially that, like I mentioned before, some people who, when you make something like that, you're like, well, we're making it for the people who need to hear it type thing. I hope more of those people do watch it in secret. I hope churches latch onto this and they're like, well, we're going to rent the film and watch it as a community, or whatever it be. Make a screening happen, like contact 1946 the movie and figure out how to bring Rocky to your town and fund a talk back with the director and Kathy. Like when those two get on a mic and share things, it moves, in conjunction with the screening of the film or people who've seen it. I think that's the hope, just a continued elevation of the discussion that eventually will change people's minds, which will then change people's hearts, which will then change legislation and votes and protections and the security that I don't have to check every month if I still have marriage equality rights or health benefits or whatever you name it. If I need to leave the country, you know what I mean? Not to be dramatic, but it's like, it's not really dramatic.
It's not really that dramatic. No.
At all.
Interesting, when 1946, the movie played in our Real Pride Film Festival here in Fresno, right before it, they played a movie called The Radical, which is about the first openly gay imam and the only openly gay imam in the world. Fabulous film. to play right before 1946. And I just heard like a week ago he was shot and killed. And because Africa is
he was
really
assassinated.
moving. Yeah, he was assassinated, and Africa is becoming extremely homophobic, even worse than it was. And of course, the United States is like supporting that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Our Christian stream, certainly what Ashley and I came from, have supported that. So yeah,
it's why the love affair between the Trump world and Vladimir Putin. It's
Putin.
all around like
Yeah.
the Christian nationalism group that makes up probably, I don't know, maybe 40 to 60% of the Trump base. They just are so happy that Vladimir Putin is anti-gay. So, and anti-abortion. So they're like literally like communism. What's that? You know, like, no, we just embrace this social conservative. That's where all this comes from.
Yeah. That's just mind blowing how someone can be so pinpoint focused on certain issue that they're so passionate about, even with missing context and empathy for, how many people have you talked to that have gone through and had an abortion? How many people have you talked to that came out and they're like, no, I made a mistake, I'll go back in the closet? Or versus how many people we have, the research we've done, the people we know and we do life with, that oh man, that breaks my heart about that assassination. And it's just like, it's only a matter of time on the current trajectory until someone I know and someone I love is affected by that in that kind of grievous manner. And that's really scary. And that alone should fire me up to ask those questions of what can I do? How do I do it? When, where, what, why, how? And do my best to show up in the tiniest little ways that it might not feel like I'm doing much. But if every single one of us are doing that, it makes that giant wave of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, you want to say, you know, they have Viktor Orban come and speak at you know, conservative Christian events, and you say, this is a murderous dictator taking away all the rights of his people. Yeah, but he's anti-gay and anti-abortion. It's like,
traditional marriage.
Yeah, or you know, we took brown-skinned people and let our government say these are gang members, no proof, no due process, send them to this horrific prison, shave their heads, and we're like, yeah, isn't that great? I mean, it's scary. I have one more clip I want to play from the podcast that I really liked, and then you can tell us where the podcast is. And I do want to hear about your documentary you're working on now, which is fab as well. Here's another clip from the 1946, the Culture Shift Tour.
This country was not built on, we're going to force Christianity on you. And we're dangerously close to that reality. And I said yes to utilizing our resources to put us on the road to do this, because I don't want to lose our country and we don't want to lose our freedoms and our rights. And what did Lindsay Booker say in her interview? She's like,
my name is Lindsay Booker, and you probably know me as Behan Blue Dot on the internet. So I think it was January 14th, 2021 was when I made my first TikTok from my car. It was just a few days after the insurrection. I was just looking around like, what the is happening?
Considered to pass that could harm our communities.
Oh, wait.
In such.
I don't know what just happened. Something weird just happened. But anyway, that was a much longer bite there. But anyway. Back then, even then, Lindsay was talking about Christian nationalism and its dangers for us, and now we're seeing it in action.
Right. And before I was, going on that tour and during, I was constantly telling people, before voting, please watch a documentary called Bad Faith. Please watch a documentary called God and Country. Both are very parallel and similar in how they excavate the roots of the Heritage Foundation and how long and how well funded all of this is and how far it goes back, that it's finally come to fruition for them in this election cycle. And they spelled it out in a playbook. We had 900 pages to read and see if people would just read. But it's being executed to take over the dominionism of the 7 mountains of faith or whatever it is. It's like, oh, damn, this is scary Handmaid's Tale stuff.
which is coming out with another season in April, by
Yes,
the way.
the
Which I
Testaments.
cannot wait.
Yes.
And by the way, just so people know, you have pastoral background. You have evangelical roots, and you've seen this from the other side.
Yes. I mean, if nothing had changed or shifted within me, I would be probably that, closeted Republican man, speaking so passionately, probably on some stages. You know what I mean? I think through what a life like that would have been for me. I went to Bible college at a private Christian university, Ozark Christian College in Joplin, Missouri. Got a Bachelor of Biblical Literature, and started a traveling drama ministry called The Road Ministries, and did camps,
Wow.
conferences, churches, prisons, using sketch humor and drama and speaking and music for like 2 years. And it was wonderful and powerful. And a lot of material looking back is just like, oh dear God. Oh, Brent.
Problematic.
But yeah, I kind of took myself out before anyone else could take me out, in my coming out. And it's funny, all these years later, that was 2004 and 5 that I kind of wrapped that up and was going through the very rough valley of my coming out journey. And now, I think in 2024, I just opened my own production company called The New Road Productions. So cheesy.
Nice.
But it's like the passion of doing all that has never left me, and my heart's always been broken from having to leave aspects of that, even though clearly my theology is much different, and the passion still within my bones, and the love is still in there. It's just I see it much differently. Yeah.
And you're doing a documentary on. Remind me now. I remember. It's super cool. Tell me more about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started this production company because I love scripted material. I love films. I love television stuff. I'm writing several things. I've got a gay real estate thriller, because I'm also a real estate broker after I fell out of ministry. I've got a real estate half-hour comedy called I'm Gorgeous Inside that I'm writing on, about a spunky gay like twink realtor and then his Century 21 competition, an old 70-year-old lady. And I'm also working on the story of my sobriety from when I was a cruise director, and how the ship kind of spit me up like a Jonah fish. And I'm to this day nearing 12 years sober. And the television show is called Ship-Faced. And the premise is when a gay cruise and a Christian cruise both end up on the same ship. And this cruise director, finding reclaimed purpose from fallen ministry, has to face everything he's running from on land or go over. So
maybe every single thing you just said, I'm like, I would watch that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would watch that. Please make that. I want to see that.
I've got a
That's
different
awesome.
podcast called Ship-Faced, where I interview people under an alias, so that some of those people, we can tell some of those stories that guests shouldn't be hearing on Cruise Life as a springboard for that. But anyway, again, I love scripted stuff. And so when a buddy reached out to me, and he's like, Brent, you've got to hear the story about my friend Luke. And he just laughed his butt off telling stories. And he's like, can we get him on the phone? I'm like, okay. And listening to those two cut up and laugh, and Brian just razzing this guy named Luke, who is now 49, but at 45 was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And he's got 2 young kids, 3 and 6. He's just a wild card of a guy. He's ridiculously handsome and fun and funny, was a wrestler. He's a veteran, used to be in IT. He is still dating chicks and drinking too much a little here and there. And he's just got this pizzazz in life and playfulness, being like, suck it, Alzheimer's. I'm going to live the rest of my days as the best of my days. And it's his spirit that really magnetized me, that once I closed my computer from that talk and recognizing he's going to lose all of this. He's going to lose every memory and bit of his brain functionality and capacity to this insanely crippling disease that robs so many people in so many ways like no other disease. And I just cried. And I'm like, well, shit, I guess I'm doing this documentary, not knowing how long it would take or look. And there's a very unique spin in Luke's story, that his mom died of this. His sister is currently in hospice with this, and he's making the choice that he's not going to die this way.
Wow.
So powerful,
raising a
and
nuanced
profound.
conversation there, and that's called forgetting to remember. And like, what if he forgets to remember what he wants to do? What if he forgets to remember all the beautiful, wonderful things he has in his life? So we're currently fundraising. We're about 40% there. So if any listeners want to go to forgettingtoremember.com, you can donate direct to the New Road Productions, my company, or we have a GoFundMe going as well. That I think, again, like we were talking earlier, the more and more people that get to hear this, younger guys, you think of this disease, you think 70s or late 60s.
Exactly.
Older people forget. And it's like, no, this is starting to affect people in their 40s and 30s. And it needs more research. It needs more brain health activity and more people to come around this. And then also the talk about medicine and assisted care and compassionate choice at the end of this journey, if someone wants to sign up for that, because it's completely blockbusted in the States. So very unique stuff. And it's just been a joy to do. I'm going to Texas in 2 weeks to get more footage with him and his girls and watching them play, getting his nails painted and being the wonderful dad that he is. So that's one of many things that I'm working on. So
nice.
Yeah.
Prolific. Brent Prolific Roberts. That's what we'll know you as. God, it's
I'll take
awesome.
it.
Appreciate all your energy and vibe and like what you're producing, both personally and professionally. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. I'm trying, and I keep reminding myself that it's like, the biggest resistance is existence. It's going out and dancing when I do not feel like dancing. Going out with my friends to a very open and gay bar to just completely cut loose and be ourselves, and that immense freedom while we still have it, to hang with those friends, to laugh, to be silly, to do well at what we do, whether that's real estate or tax preparer, no matter what it is, to put good passion into what we're doing and into our relationships around us and love them well. It's the greatest form of resistance and self-care that we can have right now through this unprecedented time. And I have to remind myself of that multiple friggin' times a day, because otherwise I'm just scrolling. I'm like, no, oh God, like if I miss something, I'm going to miss, like, no, it's just bad.
Yeah. I love
it's bad
that.
and getting worse.
That's an awesome like inspiration. It's just like, put the phone down and go be you.
Yes.
And that what gets radiated, the energy that gets propelled, that is actually the resistance, is like you go be you, and whatever that looks like. I think that's a powerful message.
Yep.
And I'll never forget, Brent, a drag show in Birmingham. What a night. What a night.
There was some good drag in the South. Let's just say that.
That's so hilarious that they actually have a wonderful bar that has Tuesday night drag in Birmingham, Alabama, of all places.
Yeah.
I mean, they say the bigger the hair, the closer to God, for a reason.
Hallelujah.
It's promoting the drag culture. Like that's
Yep.
I got you on that one.
What is so incredible about that is the energy, like watching those crowds in those places. Those people were just like in awe and celebrating and hoot and holler and throwing those dollars, because the joy that drag brings and the dancing and the hilarity, much like RuPaul's Drag Race, it's like people of all walks of life watch that show.
And athleticism. I couldn't believe what some of these dancers could do.
Yeah.
I'm assuming still with gonads intact.
Impressive. Yeah, the tuck, very, very impressive. There's a drag queen called Flamey Grant. If you guys have heard of
I've heard of
Flamey
Flamey,
Grant.
yes.
I used to, Matt used to lead worship at Colby Martin's church in San Diego. And so I experienced the living room worship with them. And it's so rad to see them top the Christian charts with their songs and like the joy. But,
what would be a good drag name? Tuck Finn. Instead of Huck Finn. Tuck Finn. We should
Yeah.
do a segment on like drag. I know that's like
Yeah,
probably
just
Huck
a
Finn.
full
lot of people have fun doing
podcast
that.
episode of
Yeah.
just creating drag
Yes.
names
Oh my god, this is gonna be
while
fun.
we're getting makeup done. And by the end of the
Okay.
segment, all three of us get blown out into drag.
And then we'll like turn around and do the reveal or something, and you'll
with
be
our
like,
with our chosen names.
Yeah.
So the whole show
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like our makeup
You
being
don't
done with our
know.
backs to the camera.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm gonna write another script, you guys. Be careful. I'm gonna
All we need is like a billionaire to underwrite all of these
Yes.
projects and stories. That would
Bingo.
work. Okay,
Billionaires, please come talk to me. I want to help you with your
that's it.
what
That's
to do with
it.
your money.
That's
I've
it.
got a lot of options for you.
I do have to ask
No
before we go, Brent. Have you watched Severance?
Yes.
Did you see the
I have a little
finale?
watch group here. No. Tomorrow
Oh.
night, we're in this living room. My friends are all coming over. We have little watch parties together. So we're watching that and the White Lotus together. And I can't wait for both. Like they're just
Okay.
so juicy, both of them.
Well, we can't say anything about Severance, but the finale is. I still almost can't talk about it. My mind is so blown by the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm very I love living in LA for a lot of reasons. I got to go to a talk back with White Lotus and all the cast was up there. You get to watch an episode and then they unpack it and talk through it afterwards. Did the same with Severance. Got to sit with the director, Ben Stiller, and him chat through everything. It's so cool. Some of the opportunities that I have here.
Yeah.
Why I put up
Where
with
are
the
we
traffic
hearing
and
about
other
that?
things.
At 7:11 p.m. We should have started with the talk back with Ben Stiller.
Just cool things I
That's
get
gotta
to do
be
that I
like-
forget. So
Take two. Okay.
And you know what's been neat about Severance for me? Like, I get angry when I'm watching a series where they only drop an episode a week. I'm like, just drop the whole damn thing and let me binge it.
Yep.
But when they just do it on a weekly basis, it gives you the chance to
Yes.
think about it through the week and read
Yeah.
stories about it and hear people's conspiracy theories and all these things. And that has been so fun in
Yeah.
this season.
It takes me. I like it too. I really appreciate that that was TV back when I was a kid.
Right.
You know, you'd be so excited to watch the next episode next week, and build up for something cool. The delayed gratification of it all is something missing, and I really appreciate when series do that.
So when somebody that has dissociative identity disorder like me, Severance is a really good way for people to understand a little bit how it works. And when you watch the finale, you'll really get a vivid picture of how it works. So enjoy.
That's very cool.
That would
One
be
thing
a
I
good
wish
topic next week.
I wish there was a way you could make your brain forget things so that, like, I would love to watch The Sopranos again as if I'd never seen it before, or Breaking Bad, or one of those series. And so I'm jealous that you get to watch the Severance finale for the first time tomorrow night. So enjoy that. It's well worth it.
Excited
Well, this has been super fun, man. Thanks for coming on with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for you two being who you are. Thank you for loving each other well through so much work y'all have to do in your marriage and in your family and where you live. All you have done. Ashley, thank you for sharing Paul with us for an entire month. Thank you for doing this podcast.
It wasn't nearly as like lonely. I actually was like kind of cool. I was like, maybe you should go every year on a trip for a month. Like, at the end of
Go fishing, babe.
I was like, I've never lived by myself. And it was like, oh,
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I was super happy when Paul was like finally coming home, but I was kind of like, we get it? You want it?
Yep. I think if when I get into a relationship, I'm going to be very open to having our own bedrooms, and then we get to just have sleepovers if we want, but otherwise I want good sleep and some unique, caveats for relationships that didn't seem like possibilities before. And why don't you take a 30-day vacation? I'm very open to that.
It seems more and more especially when your kids are up and gone from the house. Like, I have a lot of friends that, they do some family trips, but they vacation alone, or they vacation with, friends or something. It's I was never exposed to that when I was growing up, but I think it's a kind of a common thing now. People
It's
just
a
have
beautiful
freedom to do what they want to do. Yeah.
And I I wasn't sure how the trip was going to work for me at this age. You know, at 25, it would have been like the greatest thing ever. But
Right.
but it was great. The only, you know, just like at the end, I was like, I'm so sick of living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really the only thing. I loved the RV rides. I mean,
Yes.
the 15-hour ones got a little bit old for sure.
Yeah.
That's a brutal
But-
day.
It was, we had many miles together, driving to morning sunrises and great conversations that I would never trade in for the world, that I got to talk with you and people. in
Oh,
RV.
that
Just-
morning we drove out of Phoenix
Arizona.
at like 5 o'clock in the morning. That
So
was about the most beautiful
glorious.
thing I've ever seen. That was
Yeah.
really fantastic.
Yeah.
But that day was that the day we didn't have air conditioning in the RV and it was really, or was that when we went from no, we didn't.
Temecula to
Temecula
Phoenix.
to
I think
Phoenix
I
was
was
no
telling you that,
AC,
yeah.
and that was
No AC.
brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right, Brent. Love you. We'll talk to you again soon, man.
Love you. Bye, guys.
And everybody
see
who
you, Brent.
tuned in, we'll see you guys. Bye-bye.